I told you if you carried on as you were and you didn't start putting in the kind of performances the team expected, you were going to lose your drive. Well, it's happened. As of today, you are no longer an employee of this organisation. I found you an option elsewhere, and I suggest you take it if you want any hope of salvaging this so-called career of yours. 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 This so-called career of yours.
Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to my F1 2018 Career Mode, episode number 106 today for the start of Season 6. If you guys did miss the ending of Season 5, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one, but you kind of got a snippet of what occurred at the end of that Season 5 after winning our third World Drivers' Championship and our second Constructors with Scuderia Ferrari. We were fired from the team, a very toxic relationship the entirety of Season 5. I think you guys will agree we had a reputation of 0 at the end of the season, despite having 3 1-2s in a row at the end there at Abu Dhabi. We had a reputation of 0 with the team, and they cut ties with us completely, despite us being a champion for them that season. And so, Season 6, bit of free fall, but my agent has been able to cobble together a deal with Red Bull Racing. Christian Horner and the Red Bull team been looking at me for a while, and so now it's time to step into the Red Bull pen indeed, and see what we can do here alongside the fiery as ever Max Verstappen. So hopefully those of you who are big Dutch fans out there and fans of Verstappen will love this lineup, and I'm looking forward to seeing how I can match up against the very fiery youngster over the course of this season. So coming to this season then, Red Bull bring a minor tyre upgrade there to the chassis side of the car, so that's the only upgrade. I'm sure they spent a lot of resource points on the engine department. Of course, if you did miss it, from Season 5 to Season 6, the regulation change was a change of the engine components, and so that entire bit of the R&D tree got reset, and so it'll be very interesting to see how every team kind of, basically dealt with that change over the winter. But on top of that now, going to this brand new season on the game, there's going to be 2 other major changes, and the first, Christian Horner is going to let us know in an email about the driver changes and driver swaps this year. So Nico Hülkenberg has now situated himself at Mercedes. Remember, Hülkenberg is a world champion from Season 4, so he's now driving for the Silver Arrows alongside Hamilton, I'm assuming, because Valtteri Bottas has actually gone over to Sauber, with Daniel Ricciardo moving over to Renault, actually, just like it's going to be in real life. Van Dorn and Hartley swap seats from McLaren to Toro Rosso respectively, and Kimi Räikkönen, of course, is going to be back for Ferrari since they fired me from the team to be back alongside Sebastian Vettel. So those are the kind of the small random driver changes that we've got now for Season 6, and an even bigger change then, I guess, for us personally, will be an engine change. Yes, we've got the Red Bull-Honda partnership going on now in the game. Christian Horner welcoming the partnership of the brand new Honda power unit. Of course, the Honda engine has been amazing for Toro Rosso so far in our career mode. Toro Rosso have basically become a top team in the last season. They were kind of right at the top of the midfield in Season 3 and Season 4. Season 5, they were right up there sometimes in the races, and so it'll be interesting to see how we go now with Honda. But of course, for us, there's going to be some reliability issues maybe, because it's a brand new power unit for us, and so that might be something to contend with later on in this year. Might be some engine penalties, because we're having to kind of, get this engine up to a reliable standard, basically. But speaking of reliability and performance then, going to Season 6, let's have a look then at what the pecking order is like going to this brand new season with those engine regulation reset rules. So here we have it, a very interesting and exciting pecking order then for F1 in Season 6 here. So Renault now are top of the tree, and it seems like they have quite an advantage actually to us here at Red Bull in second place, and we're literally only like a pixel ahead of Toro Rosso, our sister junior team, quote-unquote junior team. I guess really Toro Rosso are the more senior team now, with knowledge of the Honda power unit for 4 or 5 seasons now, so they're only just barely behind us, and it's actually very close between us at Red Bull in second place to Toro Rosso in third, McLaren in fourth, and Mercedes in fifth. That kind of, 4 cars very, very close together for second and fifth, but Renault clearly have some sort of advantage there. Then you've got Sauber ahead of Haas, and then Ferrari have moved all the way down to third last in the pecking order. Huge news for F1, and Force India and Williams remain in second last and last place then. So if we look through the performance chart and see where everyone came from and how far they fell from Season 5, you can see Ferrari fell the most from obviously what was the top team all the way down to third last, behind now their 2 junior Ferrari teams, basically Haas and Sauber. They are now the lowest pecking order Ferrari powered car on the grid, and you can see it's pretty damn close between ourselves at Red Bull, McLaren, Toro Rosso and Mercedes, with both Toro Rosso, Mercedes and McLaren pretty much being on the same exact pixel point there, and we've got a tiny margin ahead of those guys. And there seems to be a bit of a Mercedes real life kind of golf to Renault there, but I want to pay attention to the scaling of this graph. It's the maximum 1,000 points and the bottom is 700 points. Now, if you cast your minds back to last season, the scaling was a lot different. The scaling was a top end of 1,000, but the bottom was about 500 points. So the scaling has got a little bit more zoomed in, so that gulf actually looks bigger than it actually is. That gulf is probably the same gap Renault had the luxury of to Red Bull last season. All we've done is we've lost the teams like Ferrari and McLaren in between us, and we've still remained there to the same gap to Renault. So I don't know how our power unit is going to perform for us. If we actually look specifically at the charts, Toro Rosso, their Honda power unit is the second best on the grid, and they are pretty much equal, near enough to Renault there, whereas we're in P4, equal enough to Mercedes and Haas there, you can see. So we've got a lot of work to do actually to try and catch back up to our, like I said, unquote junior team in second place there on the engine side of things. You can see we've got quite a few upgrades to do, so that's probably a large area of the car we'll get stuck into, as well as the reliability maybe. If we look onto the chassis side of things, our car has retained a very good chassis. The chassis is a lot closer for the entire grid actually. Everyone's very, very well spaced out there. Renault hold again, you know, the top spot for that. That's why they're going to be, that's why it looks like they have such a gulf, because they are top of every single department here. But we're pretty damn close. You know, you talk about one ultimate upgrade and one major upgrade, and we're already there with Renault. So I think also we can take confidence that in every track early on the season, a la Monaco, maybe Spain, our car should be pretty damn good actually compared to Renault, because the power deficit won't matter too much. And then aero-wise, surprisingly, that's probably our worst department actually, I would say, is P4 there, because we are behind actually Ferrari, and that actually kind of shows how much of a deficit Ferrari's engine and chassis may be doing to them, that they're in P3 in the aero department, but still way down the pecking order there. So we have some work to do on the aero side, and it actually looks like, surprisingly for Red Bull's sake, it's all downforce. This car can't actually be reduced in drag anymore. The only upgrades we have to do are from the front and rear downforce. So surprising to say that, but this Red Bull car's lacking some downforce to take it right to the top of the pecking order there. So that is how the entirety of the Season 6 grid then looks like. Let's jump into qualifying then and see how we do. This is going to be a very exciting season indeed. If you guys are hyped for this with all the changes for this year, then be sure to hit that like button. Let me know your thought in the comments below about any of those changes, and let's head into this thing. And before we dive into the Q1 action, then we've got Claire asking me a question actually post-practice, which is quite interesting to actually answer.
Good day today. Tell us about it from your perspective. What triggered your move to a new team?
So really funny question and answer I can give here now, and clap back on Ferrari after firing me after Season 5 and delivering them 2 championships in a row there. Faster car, more money, screw you Ferrari. And so with that important information out of the way, we move into Q1 then. The first time I'm going to drive this Red Bull car in any sort of anger then. A little bit wide into that hairpin there. So obviously Q1 doesn't have to be the fastest. We're just trying to get through into Q2 and really just trying to suss out where this car is in terms of pace. At the moment, understeering all over the place, so you can see he's still trying to get used to the car and everything like that. You know, the drivability is very different. You know, each car is very unique into the way they turn in, turn out. The Red Bull's definitely a bit more punchy on the front end, but that also means it's a bit more unstable as well. So if you don't get it quite on the angle you need it to, it can bite you a little bit back, a little bit more than the Ferrari did. That was a bit more cushy in terms of you could kind of take more unique lines and it would still work out. I think ultimately also there was a bit more downforce on that Ferrari car I was actually driving, whereas this Red Bull, like we saw, still needs to have some front and rear downforce added to it before he gets to the max potential. But in the end, we do get through into Q2, thankfully, with P11. But Verstappen, unfortunately, a really poor start to the Season 6 for him. He gets knocked out in Q1 because he tried to get through on super soft tyres. I just don't see the logic in that. And so, really unfortunate for the second half of the team there to be out, because I was looking forward to both of us kind of testing where the limits of the car is. Now we only get to see where I can take this car, and you know, he might have been able to get more out of the car later on these sessions in Q2 and Q3 hopefully, so we'll just never know. But for some reason Verstappen's side of the garage just thought they'd commit to the super soft, and it just didn't work out for them. So he moved then into Q2, flying the lone flag for Red Bull then, of course, joined by our 2 Toro Rosso counterparts, and so 3 Honda powered cars in Q2. So at the moment, our first final lap was okay, P4. We will go down the order into P8, so I went out for a second run just to feel a bit more comfortable, because you never know, there might be a few people setting lap times right at the end of Q2 and I might just about get knocked out, so making sure I make it through. And this is actually going to be a very tasty hooked up lap there. I felt so nice here in Q2. Conditions were perfect, the car was feeling on point there, and we get up into P3. That'll be at the end of this session to get it up into the top 10 shootout. So I don't know if that'll be ultimately ultimately the position we end up in the top 10, but a very nice session for us in Q2. You can see, though, both Toro Rossos make it in, both Renaults. McLaren, one of the McLarens actually gets knocked out. Brendan Hartley, in his debut to the McLaren team, gets knocked out, and both Ferraris now are out in Q2. Vettel tried his best, but he was actually down the bottom in P14, so definitely a lot of work for my old team to do in Season 6, and the likes of Mercedes kind of come back into the fray, and Leclerc, so he probably actually likes the fact he stayed in the Sauber car, because he's probably got the fastest Ferrari-powered car on the grid. So we now move into the top 10 shootout then. Our first flying lap was on a worn set of Ultras, so it wasn't really that impressive. We then go on for a second flying lap in Q3, which was a much better lap time, a little bit wide here and there in Sector 2, but all round we do gain a lot of time on the top right, you can see, but ultimately it's just not going to be enough time to actually even match the best lap time I had in Q2. So that Q2 lap was really quite perfect, because a lock up in the last corner and it just doesn't add up into the time, because we get a little bit just bogged down there, and also just at the end we're going to derate as we cross the line, and so ultimately we're way down the order then in P10. It was P8 across the line, but everyone else set fast lap times. But to be fair, actually, if you look at the timings, if I had set the same exact time I did in Q2, which was my best time overall on Saturday, that still would have only got me P10, because everyone exponentially improved into the top 10 shootout. So at least over one lap, we have a lot of work to do with this car to really get it into any kind of fit state of fighting for high points and podiums maybe in the season. But remember, the race day is a completely different scenario. High fuel, you've got traffic, slipstream, DRS, ERS management. Obviously, remember, the ERS management is going to be harder in Season 6 now, because everything got reset from Season 5. So it's all to play for. I'm a much better racer than I am a qualifier, so let's go to Sunday and make the most of it.
New drivers, new cars, and a new Formula One season. But it's the same Albert Park that we've come to know and love for more than 2 decades now that hosts the first round of a 21-race championship, taking us from here in Melbourne, Australia, across the globe before we eventually reach the season finale at Yas Marina Circuit in Abu Dhabi. Just south of Melbourne's downtown business centre is the one and only Albert Park Circuit. 3.3 miles of public roads, closed for the weekend of course, make for a bumpy circuit with little undulation. There are 16 corners around the lake and a couple of good passing opportunities here as well, thanks in part to the DRS zones into turns 1, 3 and 13. I'm joined today in the commentary box, as I will be throughout this season, by a great racing driver, former F1 competitor, man who was world champion once upon a time as well, and an all-round top chap. It's the one and only Anthony Davidson. And tell me, here we are, first Grand Prix of the season, the first time racing these cars. So what are the big questions that need to be answered here, in your view?
First of all, Crofty, and thanks for the glowing introduction. I just want to say it's a real privilege to be here, and I can't wait to see what this competitive field has in store for us this season. Now, to answer your question, obviously there's the question of performance in race trim, but really this is going to be all about reliability. It's the first Grand Prix of the season, don't forget. You're pushing all your new components to their limits. Formula One cars are full of very sophisticated but also very sensitive technology. So the most important thing today is to get to the end of the race, keep everything in good condition and try to stay out of trouble while you're at it.
So let's have a look then at the starting grid for round number 1 of the Season 6 of F1 2018 career mode here. It was a great day for Renault Works team. A front row lockout sees Carlos Sainz on pole position and his new teammate Dan Ricciardo in second place. Then we have in third place Fernando Alonso, Pierre Gasly in fourth for the Toro Rossos, Hamilton in fifth, Stoffel Van Dorn in sixth place, Leclerc seventh, Perez eighth. Ocon then in ninth place, and running in the top 10 is myself. Then you've got Hartley, Hülkenberg, Grosjean, Sebastian Vettel in P14, Magnussen, Raikkonen in P16 with Verstappen in 17th, with Lance Stroll in 18th, and Sergei Sorokin and Valtteri Bottas round out the last row of the grid. So let's head into the race then. Right, so rolling on to race time then. P10, and the strategy is going to look like this. A one-stop, our engineers are saying, from old soft tyres to a set of softs. There is a possibility maybe the two-stop might be faster if we get in clean air, but that is a big if around here. Australia is obviously quite a difficult place to pass here and there, depending on how much straight line speed you have, and I'm not too sure how the drag is going to be compared to other cars. Obviously, it's very hard to tell in qualifying, so we'll stick with that strategy, but obviously, as always, we'll be very flexible and keep our ear to the ground, especially with our engineer maybe recommending some some options there. But from P10, only got my eyes forwards on some good points here today to kick off our campaign with Red Bull Racing Honda as we go to 5 red lights for the start of Season 6 here. Lights are out and we're underway for 29 laps around Melbourne. It's a good getaway for us compared to the two Force Indias. Can we make a move, though, into Turn 1? That's a different question. It's going to be very close together, and we ultimately have to back out of that. You've got Sergio Perez, I think, losing out to his teammate Esteban Ocon as he's up into P9. Hulkenberg right behind me overtakes Brent Hartley in his new silver arrows. We now try and chase after the pack, but really can't make any headway so far, as it's now 2 by 2 there. You got the Leclerc going around the outside, or trying to go around the outside. So meanwhile then, it's Carlos Sainz pressurising his teammate Dan Ricciardo, as Ricciardo is up into first place. He was in second on the front row, so a very good getaway for the home favourite to overtake his teammate straight away on lap 1 and get into the lead of this Grand Prix. Now he can go control that. Meanwhile, we're going to try and overtake Sergio Perez, catch him napping a little bit because there's a big old train here forming as the kind of guys fight away, and it's so close at the moment in the top 10, so there might be a fair bit of traffic actually. So I think the one stop probably most likely is going to be the strategy we go with. But meanwhile now, third place is Fernando Alonso, being chased after though by Pierre Gasly, and a bit of contact's made there. Yes, a bit of carbon fibre off the front wing of Gasly, so he's going to be slow now, and Van Dorn, his new teammate, the Belgian, might be able to overtake him on the outside. Gasly goes defensive to the inside. He's got a lot of damage actually on that end plate there, and it was such a subtle touch on Fernando Alonso's rear end, so very, very sensitive front wing there for the Toro Rosso, and those two go side by side now. They're going to lose each other a heap of time as Van Dorn dives down the inside. Then the number 2 Toro Rosso car is now up into P4, and so Van Dorn will lead that train then, and Gasly will be very susceptible now to an overtake from Lewis Hamilton. Then this will be on the inside. Can he make the move stick on the outside? Hamilton goes. It's going to be the long way around, but a contact made, and Gasly's really getting into the wars now in this Grand Prix. You know, he's just going to lose more time now and more downforce with that front wing damage. It's actually 3 wide nearly, because Leclerc now is round the outside. We can't make anything work though, because Ocon is just being a mobile chicane to us, but Leclerc tried his best, didn't work out, but good on him for trying that move to make it 3 wide between Hamilton, Gasly and himself, and he just couldn't quite do it there, so he sticks there. But Gasly now is really holding up this train, because Hamilton's got past, and you can see the effects of it, because Perez is still very much right behind, and at the moment we're effectively being held up by traffic, because I feel like I could go a lot faster than we are right now, and of course it's just logical with Gasly having damage, and now he's doing still some more great defensive work. So to be fair to Gasly, he's doing a great job at holding the position. He's doing his team a good job there, because this is going to allow Van Dorn to get away from everyone, but it really does not help me out in the senior team as we now try and do a big dive bomb on Ocon there. Bash tyres on the front, and Ocon spews me onto the grass there. It was a very aggressive move from me, but equally so good defensive, aggressive work from Ocon then to fight back then. But I had to try and do something, because this traffic is literally losing me a second per lap, I feel like, in a way, because Gasly's going that slow. I mean, look at turn 1. That is so much slower than we were going in qualifying, albeit with heavier fuel, but still, I hope you guys get a sense of how much this is holding me up, as I go a little bit too cautious then on the brakes, and Perez goes around my outside, so I'm getting flustered at the same time, and this kind of claustrophobia of being boxed in between two Force Indies just isn't a great place to be. I'm desperately trying to move left and right, trying to find a way around. I'm constantly having to lift off the throttle, just not smashing the back of Ocon, and so at the moment this is not a very fun place to be in this Red Bull car in P9, and so this is pretty much wrecking our race at the moment. So I need to maybe think about a strategy of maybe pitting a little bit earlier than I want to. Meanwhile though, at least I'm going to alleviate some pressure from behind, because Hulkenberg now goes around the outside then of that Sergio Perez. Then nice move this will be if he makes it stick in his brand new silver arrow. Perez though, ever the fighter, is going to come back at him now on the left hand side with no DRS actually, just pure slipstream that is for the Force India, and he goes with a big old dive on the outside, actually makes it work, makes a bit of contact, and he'll stick his nose in to force some space there on the inside, but a little shimmy and shake on the exit, and Hulkenberg gets it, and actually there you go, Brendan Hartley then goes down the inside and catches Perez and off of Wes. He went a little bit spewing wide, and so that allowed Hartley to send one to the inside. Then you've got also Roman Grosjean trying to stick it in, so Perez ultimately is going to lose more positions than gain anything from all that fighting. So Hulkenberg and Hartley through, and look at that big old dive from Grosjean there. So a lot of dives so far at the Australian Grand Prix. Season 6 going to be the season of dive bomb overtakes maybe. Perhaps we'll have to watch out for that, but we now move into lap 7 onto lap 8. We're going to come in very early now. This is about 2 or 3 laps earlier than I wanted to go onto soft tyres, but simply put, we're losing way too much time, and actually I think I can gain an infinite amount of time on the soft tyres with the undercut here than being stuck behind those guys trying to overtake them. So pretty much taking the logical approach and just, getting to some beautiful clean air. Look at that mini-map. No one is going to be around us. We're last place on the track, but don't fret. Be patient. It's a long-term play here. Pitting this early now. No one's going to pit for another 2 laps, I think, on lap 9. I think it's the earliest anyone's going to come in. So pretty much now we get our head down, go overtake mode and hot lap mode when we can on the lap and rich mix the entire time so far, because the Honda engine's appearing to be pretty damn fuel efficient actually in Season 6. Good upgrades on the Red Bull car from previous AI seasons. And already now you can see into lap 10, turn 1, we're up into P18. But look who's behind us, Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly. So those two made earlier pit stops as well relative to the rest of the grid. But we've already jumped Gasly and Ocon, the two Frenchmen who are holding us up massively. Now it's just Leclerc. We got past him, even with a bit of a screen freeze on lap 11. We get past him. Thankfully, didn't hit the wall with that screen freeze. And we are up into P16. So making good progress ahead of all 3 cars we were getting held up by. So pretty much, from my perspective, job done. And we've got yellow flags now. Sorokin is going very slow now. The Russian is going to have to retire out of this Grand Prix. Then he parks up on the left-hand side there, famously where Dan Ricciardo parked up in real life. I think in, 2016, I want to say? Or it might have been 2017. I can't remember. That's the infamous place where many people in the history of the Australian Grand Prix have parked up there from retirement. So now we have another retirement. It's going to be Sebastian Vettel. He's out this Grand Prix. So you can really tell it is indeed the start of the season. 2 retirements in quick succession. And that's a mechanical failure for Vettel. And so his season starts horrendously after it ended so well in Season 5 with 3-1-2s for Ferrari with myself. Last season, it starts off very poorly with a DNF there, and so Raikkonen's the only Ferrari left in this Grand Prix as we now move up into P7. Hamilton in the Mercedes ahead of us, and I think everyone's pretty much made their one and only pit stop for a 1-stop, from ultras to soft tyres or super softs to soft tyres, and so that pretty much shows that the undercut was a very good idea. But actually, look at this, hang on, we've got an engine failure for Hamilton. He spews away there, goes up in smokes. Hamilton out of this Grand Prix, so 3 DNFs in the span of 3 laps there. It really is Melbourne round 1 of a new F1 season there. And so we're going to be up into P6, and we overtake Grosjean, who has yet to make his pit stop because he started on super soft tyres. And so just like that, we're up into P5. So we've turned this thing around double time from P9 to P5. I would say that's a very successful pit stop phase and a good stint for us. And so now we go chasing after, if we can, Stoffel Van Dorn. Meanwhile, we've got Gasly, this is, trying to overtake Nico Hülkenberg. This is behind, and they hold each other up so much because Hülkenberg locked up and nearly pushed Gasly off circuit. So both of those guys train each other, and that's going to form a 4-man train along with Leclerc and Brennan Hartley, that will be. And on to the next lap then, Gasly, we have another go at Hülkenberg, this time to the inside of the hairpin. DRS open for him. It's a big dive bomb because Hülkenberg tries to shut the door halfway through the corner, and so these guys are really going for some late moves here in Season 6. I guess it's maybe the engine power doesn't quite give them the oomph to get right past them, so they're having to really brake late and try and make the move stick in the corner, and it's producing some great racing because these guys are still side by side. And so this is really helping me out and everyone else in the top 10, because these guys are in the bottom half of the top 10 and they're just going slower and slower because they keep racing each other so hard. But Gasly does get ahead of Hülkenberg. Leclerc still ahead of Hartley, who just about keeps Perez at bay, I think that is, in the Force India and the 2 Haas cars. Meanwhile, to the other Toro Rosso now, this is Stoffel Van Dorn, and that is Fernando Alonso, and he's actually got issues, I can tell you. The engineer's been telling us that Alonso has some mechanical issues and he's going slow, and so he's not out of the Grand Prix, but he's just going slow in this race. And so Van Dorn, with a very easy overtake, lock-up albeit, up into P3 then. So Van Dorn and his new Toro Rosso Honda team is in a podium position at the moment, and Alonso now is going to be susceptible because we're in P5, remember. Alonso's P4 with issues, so let's go chase after him. It's going to take a few laps, but we will eventually catch up to Fernando on lap 18. This will be with 11 laps to go in this Grand Prix then, and you can kind of almost tell he's kind of limping along, and so you could say it's probably only a matter of time before I overtake my old teammate from Season 3 in the McLaren here as we go through the right-hander flat out right up the gearbox of the Spaniard. We're going to go for a dive bomb down the inside there, hit the apex over the curbing very nicely indeed, and we're up into P4 very smoothly. And so now we try and see if we can do anything to chase after Van Dorn, but at the moment also, saying that, Alonso is still right behind us. We go a little bit deep into that corner, this offset camera. You can see the nice lovely 3 stars on my helmet to signify my 3 world championships. Not that Ferrari ever cared about it too much at the end of last season, but Alonso's still there. But then through the corner you can see he goes so slowly there on the exit of the chicane, so that's why he's got mechanical issues, maybe I don't know, downforce failure of some kind. But now we've got the full safety car. is out now with about 10 laps to go. By the time we finish this lap, it is out, and it might come out at a very good time for us because we're going to be able to actually dive into the pits now, and we're going to get a free pit stop here. So I'm quickly thinking about the strategy, and yes, I do confirm to box this lap, I'm going to make sure the tyres on super soft. In a split, 10 seconds, I had to think about the strategy. Do I stay out on softs or do I come in? We're going to come in now because I'm going to go onto a set of super soft tyres. We'll have maybe 8 laps left if we stay out for 2 laps under the safety car, and we'll be on much fresher tyres compared to everyone else staying out on softs, I think. And so this will be our only chance, I think, to try and get that podium against Van Dorn in the Toro Rosso, because he was so far ahead of me. Because although I was gaining on Alonso, I wasn't gaining on Van Dorn that entire time. It was only because Alonso was slow that I was gaining on him. And so this is my only chance now on the restart. Overtake all the cars ahead of me, between me and Van Dorn, as fast as I can, and then try and chase after the Belgian man. And it was very crucial for me to actually get ahead of Brent Hartley there on the exit of turn 1. And so here we go now on the restart there. It goes green. A little bit awkward though in the last corner. We're still waiting to get the power down. But this now needs to be a very quick succession of overtakes to try and get into some clean air and chase after Van Dorn, who is going to obviously get aided by these effective kind of hurdles I need to climb over at the very restart of this race on lap 22 then. So we've got 7 laps to go. Can we get this elusive podium for the first race with Red Bull Racing as we now go into turn 1? Holcomb a little bit slow. There's a lot of traffic up ahead as now there's going to be some cars going side by side then. So we're going to make a big dive on Hulkenberg and just about slot in there, squeeze him out very aggressively, and now we find ourselves behind Pierre Gasly once again, and also Fernando Alonso, who's going still slow. He's got that mechanical issue, but he's still going in this race, and so Gasly tries to make a move, and he goes around the outside there, dances around his outside, and that may be a very good move for Pierre, but we're going to try and also dance around the outside of Alonso, and so we're on the left-hand side, we're on the grass a little bit there, but we've got some space to work with, and we're going to dive on the outside of Gasly, and that is a fantastic move on Gasly there. 2 cars in one kind of corner and one little section of the track, but Gasly comes back at us there, and so he gets it. That Honda power in the back of the Toro Rosso is a little bit better than the Red Bull power, and so he's able to get it, and so we have to go fighting another time on Gasly. But for what it was worth, that move on Gasly initially was so sweet there, because I wasn't even planning it, but we just kept on going there, and he was slowing down and just about managed to kind of almost slide around his outside in a way. But now we're going to slide to the inside into the second last corner now. A bit of contact, and Gasly pushes us off onto the grass. What on earth is Gasly doing there? And so already tensions are rising between me and Gasly on lap 22 there. He's going to come back as we're going to defend to the inside though, then go back to the racing line, supercross into turn 1 and ultimately keep that position. But that was very unnecessary from Gasly there. I gave him the room. We're side by side. He didn't need to push me onto the grass like he did. But anyway, now we're going to catch up to Esteban Ocon here onto a brand new lap. No DRS quite activated yet, but just with pure overtake mode and rich mix, we dive it down the inside there, and you can see we just about slide through. Ocon got a little bit deep into that corner actually as well, and so we're up into P4, so we're back to where we were, square 1, and now you can see we're right behind Stoffel Van Dorn, pushing hard now. It's lap 27, so it took us about 4 laps then to try and catch up to Van Dorn, but ultimately this wouldn't have occurred if I was on soft tyres and we didn't have that safety car. So it was an inspired kind of solution to pit under it, and so now we can make a pop and try and get this miracle podium in this first race for Red Bull against the Toro Rosso car down the inside of Van Dorn. Van Dorn though will keep it on the outside, but we just about make it. Bit of oversteer on the exit, but we cut across the racing line and shimmy and shake, and we're going to be up into P3 now. But it's still all dominant for the Renault boys. Carlos Sainz in second, and the home favourite is still leading the way for a home victory. Daniel Ricciardo in his brand new Renault Works team. But now to the next lap, Van Dorn's going to catch up to us with DRS, and also we're down to high ERS mode because I need to save some for the remaining of this race. And Van Dorn is down the inside, but locks up badly, and so ultimately we get a switchback move on him, and we're back up into P3. So kept it calm in that fight, but like I said, we're having to save some ERS. So at the moment we're still in high mode on ERS, which isn't ideal. I'd rather be in hot lap mode, and so we go to overtake on this main back straight, but Van Dorn will keep on climbing and gaining because I imagine maybe he is on hot lap mode, and maybe that Toro Rosso car has better ERS in terms of the efficiency of the ERS electrical energy. At the moment this Red Bull car definitely doesn't have the same efficiency I was used to and the luxury I had in season 5 with Ferrari, and so you can see I'm going to none on the entry, and on the exit going back up into hot lap mode, but it's actually no use because that little split second of none ERS basically made the difference there, because Van Dorn is out around the outside. We're unable to defend really into turn 1 because they don't have quite the speed I needed in 8th gear there. And so Van Dorn is back up into P3 on the last lap of the Grand Prix. Very frustrating, but honestly, that's really the case of, that's the reason why the R&D rule regulation resets are quite exciting, because it means that the systems like the ERS system, basically you have to relearn how to race with the ERS, because you don't have the same efficiency as you were used to in the previous season. And so now, onto the last lap of the Grand Prix, I'm going to try a last-ditch effort into the last corners, and I just can't make it. If I made a dive bomb there, I would have for sure made contact with Van Dorn, and that would have just been a penalty probably, so I let it go. We couldn't quite get P3, but it's still going to be a really great P4, all things considered, earlier on with the traffic in that Grand Prix, so I'm very, very happy with that. P4 to kick off our new campaign in Season 6. I'll take that, I'll take that.
It was a magnificent race and a drive right out of the top draw to take the win for Renault. Anthony, what do you think made the difference here?
Without a doubt, the safety car changed everything today. The key to their success was keeping calm and reacting to the situation quickly. We've seen teams in the past throw away wins because they were too hesitant, but here they were decisive, and that's allowed them to take the advantage.
So there you have it, a rather exciting start to Season 6 there, with a great battle with Van Dorn and the Toro Rosso car, and I think we're going to have a lot of battle with the Toro Rosso, to be honest, because they're very close to us in the performance chart, and their engine at the moment is better than our engine, even though it's obviously the same power unit. Obviously they've developed it for a lot longer in the performance data, but dominant 1-2 then for Renault. So although the gap wasn't actually that big because of the safety car in the end, they were very comfortable the entire time. So even though the gulf in performance, like I said at the very beginning of the episode, maybe isn't that actually numerically big, you can see in terms of comfort levels they weren't really that challenged, and so Ricciardo comes home with a very great first win. But we've had Ricciardo win the first race of the season many times before, and how many times the Ricciardo just fell into bad luck of then falling away very rapidly mid-season. So we'll see if a new colour in yellow might be the difference for Ricciardo this season in Season 6, but we kick off the campaign in some good way. Verstappen, though, unfortunately never really recovered from his bad qualifying, really, so that's a shame. So I don't really know fully where the potential of the car is, because I don't know if Verstappen's going to be able to get more out of the car or not at this stage of the season than me. Well, we're going to have to find out next race, basically, but for now I can't really tell. But he just got probably bogged down in that traffic that I got held up in, but he just couldn't do much about it, really, because he was already down the order anyway, so he couldn't really pit and undercut in the same way that I could. So, but ultimately for me personally, still very, very happy with the job we did, and it's a good start for Red Bull and this Honda partnership then. So we go to the end of the episode then. I'm going to look through the data actually, just to see maybe where we're going to really improve in the next few stages. Obviously we can't actually afford any major upgrades quite yet in this very first episode of Season 6, but I'm just trying to scout out where we can make updates. And I think, like I said, we probably should do a lot of work on the engines to try and catch up, because I think in this race, at least Australia, it was very apparent that was the biggest place I was losing time, was just every straight compared to the Toro Rosso, and even the Force India car was faster than us in a straight line here and there in the acceleration zone. So I'm thinking maybe that last little tree line on the engine, you've got the you've got the minor, the major, and then the ultimate. I think that's probably a good way to go about it, perhaps. But then also at the same time, we can look at aero and chassis as we see fit. Kind of depends on the track we're going to next, really. But for now, we can't really spend anything, so we hold put, and we're just going to assess our options going to next episode. But guys, if you did enjoy that very first episode of Season 6, then be sure to smash that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're new around here, you can subscribe for weekly full-on content. I've been aarava. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.